Haberdasher Do.
Hi, it's Jane from Haberdasher Do. We're into week 8 of the Great British Sewing Bee, and I'm here to talk about, what am I here to talk about? They were doing icons, fashion icons this week. So the pattern challenge was to make a Audrey Hepburn-inspired dress. They wanted luxury fabrics. It had this crescent shape back, which required you to use what we call the burrito method to turn it inside out, and it was a lined bodice. They had 5 hours, I think, to make this. The tricky bit was that the fabrics that they were going to have to use, usually a bit of fabric with a bit of sheen or shine to it, means it's going to be a slippery fabric to work with, which makes precision sewing quite difficult. So Asma did hers in a royal blue satin, and it was very good. They said the side seams were a bit bouncy, which means they kind of puckered a little bit. I have to say, the one that they showed as an example, which was in a very, very dark navy, that wasn't perfect. And in fact, they picked up on one of the contestants at the waist seam. They said it didn't meet, but the demonstration one was off, and in fact Ismi's hand was covering it for most of the camera take. So have another look at that and you'll see that the waist seam was off on that. Also, the invisible zip wasn't fantastic either. It wasn't that invisible, but there we go. Right, so Asma's was very good as expected. Mia did a aquamarine. There's a very, very pale turquoisey colour. Hers was, they just said hers was slightly off at the waist seam, at the side seam. I think that was nitpicking a little bit. Tony's was in a floral satin, and he did a really nice placement of the floral pattern on the front. He came unstuck because he used the same fabric to line it, and then got the lining and the outer confused when he was doing the crescent at the back. So he'd actually put it on the wrong way around, I think. So we had you could see the understitching on the piece that he'd had on the outside, and he'd also caught the lining in a couple of places. Vicky's was in that vibrant pink and orange kind of, it wasn't a shiny satin fabric, but it was a very kind of sheer drapey fabric, which looked really lovely. That it was hers. They said the waistband was a bit wonky because it was an unusual style. It was a fitted bodice with bust darts here and waist darts, and it had a little gather on the skirt. Hers was a bit wonky. And Lauren's, she had a bit of a mare. Nice fabric, that's kind of peach skin fabric. Peach skin, you know, peaches have that kind of very slight fuzz to them, so peach skin has that softness to it. She put her invisible zip went a bit wrong, so she tried to unpick it, couldn't, so she decided to rip it out, and you could hear the fabric ripping. And I know I've done it myself, and you know you shouldn't be doing it, but you still carry on doing it. So hers unfortunately didn't have a hem on it either, so she was last place. Tony 4th, Vicky 3rd, Mia 2nd, and Asma 1st. Patterns and fabric wise for the dress, I have found, so McCall's 7971. This is probably the most like the one in the show, although the skirt is a little bit fuller. The reason I chose this one is because the bodice has the waist darts and it has the bust darts. You can do a sleeveless version. The only thing I couldn't find was one, I've just realised I chopped my head off, was one with the shaped back, the crescent back. Okay, so there's that one, 7971. I also found 8038, and that also has bust and waist darts at the back, although they're not at the front. Also has a centre seam zip at the back, but that has a straighter skirt, so you could probably hash those two patterns together for that one. So that was it on the pattern front for those. Fabric wise, we could look at the classic black satin little number. Turn it around. There we go. Obviously you'd have to give it a press first. That would give you your classic LBD little black dress. Put that there. We've also got something similar in a Cadbury's purple satin. This is. It might look quite blue on screen, but I can assure you it is Cadbury's Dairy Milk purple. That has a very slight stretch to it. Okay, so there's that one. Those are both really reasonably priced. They're about £6 a metre, those two satins. So it's a fairly economical buy. The other fabric I've put out is this, which is a viscose. It has a bit of a sheen to it, and Vicky did a pattern, didn't she, and Tony as well. This could be quite striking as a dress or a trouser. Breathe in, Jane. We call it legs because we think it looks a bit like legs, so maybe I shouldn't say that because now you can't unsee it. But that is a viscose, but it has a shine to it, and that is £6. No, it's not. It is 11 a metre. That one. Okay, so the transformation challenge. Sorry, it's the end of the day, which is why I'm looking a bit rough and no makeup. Transformation challenge was to take two shower curtains and transform them into a high fashion, impactful outfit. I think quite a couple of them would make an impact. There was a see-through one from Lauren, which was quite brave, or you'd have to be quite brave to wear it. I think the most wearable one was the yellow dress from Vicky, but Esme said that was impractical because the deep V, the back and front, meant it would fall off your shoulders. Probably a bit more practical than a totally transparent dress though, but maybe that's just me. The made to measure was a smoking jacket for a man, so nice to see some different models in the sewing room for a change. So it's a lined smoking jacket. They'd already cut out most of their pieces, they said. I think they had 4 hours, possibly 5, there's a bit of confusion. So the pattern wise, I could only find one men's jacket pattern. Where is it? There it is. And that is 7818. It's more of a semi-tailored jacket than a smoking jacket, sort of a semi-fitted jacket, but it has a revere collar and lapels. That is, yeah, 7818. I also found 7476, which is a bit more of a boxy style with patch pockets, a bit more casual style, just a simple revere collar. That one. I would also like to show you, I think you'll recognise this fabric. This is a jacket that I made a little while ago. This is a So Different pattern, swing jacket. It's a relatively simple jacket to make. It just has a back piece, 2 front pieces, and then the, what do you call it, facing here, placket that goes all the way around. Sleeves are just 3/4 and turned over. I don't particularly like the fabric that they've done the pattern in at the front, but I've made this in a couple of fabrics. I've made this in just a cotton calico-y type, canvasy type fabric as well for a more casual jacket. So this is the fabric that Vicky used for her jacket. Unfortunately her jacket was a bit too small for her model. The So Different pattern, they also do a similar one in a slightly longer version. Okay, so that's that. Fabric wise, we've got velvets. We've got, this is our trug of velvet. got lovely bright velvets. We've got this one, obviously. We've got a beautiful bottle green velvet. We've got ochre, bright pink, lots of different ones. You could take what's the saying? Can't think what the saying is. Mia's was a more pastel-y shades one. I don't know whether that would work as a jacket. It's kind of pinks and sage greens. Might work better as curtains, but you never know. And just plain black velvet is the last one. Those are all polyester velvets. This one is a cotton velvet, so it hangs slightly differently and it has a slightly different feel and sheen to it. That's a cotton velvet. So Asma's was a purple and black smoking jacket, and she put piping cord around the collar, around the lapel, and also around the cuffs. So she had quite a lot of work in that. She did tend to put some shoulder pads in, but I think it was a bit snug on her model, so she didn't in the end. Lauren was a green and black. It was kind of a tealy blue come green with black. She had a bit of a mare. When we first saw her sleeve, I said, I think she's put that in the wrong way around. But then she tried to rectify it, but it was all gathered. I don't know whether she'd cut the wrong size sleeve, or I don't know what had gone wrong, but the sleeve was way too big for the sleeve head was way too big for the sleeve, and it was all puffy, and it didn't go well. She'd also cut her pocket the right way, but had sewn it on sideways, so the nap, so velvet has a nap, so if you have it going different ways, it looks different, and she'd put it on the wrong way, so it looked a different colour, so she had a bit of a mare. Mia, she did that kind of Harry Styles inspired brocade, sort of gender fluid kind of type with the scallops. Hers is really well made, actually. That collar was really well done. What let her down was she was rushing at the end and she didn't check the hem. I thought it was quite interesting what Patrick said about the rule of thumb, which is the jacket length, if I step back, is it for a man, it should finish where the knuckle of your thumb is. So that would be a good gauge to go by. There's a bit of a tailoring thing. So her jacket was a little bit short, I think. Tony did the purple, very similar looking to Asma's. I think his was corduroy rather than velvet, with black lapels, and he did welt pockets. So there's those pockets with the kind of trimming on them. They're hard to do at the best of times. You need to take your time with them. So trying to do them when you're up against the clock was always going to be difficult. And then Vicky's, her rainforest velvet. The jacket was very nice, but it was too small for the model. Also, it didn't have any pockets in it, which I think you've got to have pockets. Got to have pockets, haven't you? So that was it, really. We had to say goodbye to Lauren, but she did have a bit of a mare this week. I think she's a very good sewer, actually, and I think she's possibly better than somebody else who's still in, but hey. So next week is utilitarian week. It looked like they're going to be making trench coats and boiler suits. So that's it. So it's semi-finals week, and then I'm away on holiday for the final. So I'm going to have a social media blackout whilst I'm on holiday if I don't want to find out who it is. So there won't be a blog for the final until a week later. All right, so see you next week, folks. Bye.